And we're back. I'm at the Business Broker Event of the Year in Orlando, Florida. It's the IBBA's 2025 conference. And today's actually the day after the IBBA and before the M&A Source. And I want to take this time to share some things that I learned from the best practice panel. It's always the way they conclude the show. They poll some of the top producers of the year, the award winners that do the most deals, and they just ask them, hey, give us some tips. Let's do an open mic with the top performers, see what we can learn from them. I want to just read some of the notes that I took regarding best practices in business brokerage. And it's my hope that for business owners, business buyers, new business brokers out there, that some of the content from this may be useful in some way. The first question someone asked is about getting started. And the comment was, how do you get started in this business? Business brokerage is a tough business. It's a relationship business. You have no relationships as a new intermediary. How do you get started? And the panelists pretty much confirmed it's going to be rough and only the strong will survive, essentially. They talked about 10 meetings a week with new prospects, with new centers of influence, and how important this is, and how you may not even see results. It may not feel like anything's happening. And that is normal, not just for the first year, but for the second year. Possibly, one gentleman said that it's the third year that's the magic year where it really starts to turn. And the application for this for intermediaries is don't go in undercapitalized. For any business, really, the number one reason that businesses fail is they go in undercapitalized. They don't have enough money to survive the drought that is a new business. You start a new business, you bring money for equipment, for marketing, for people, and it's no different in business brokerage. But the seeds that you plant in the first year do take root, and they do bloom in years 2 or 3 in the world of business brokers. So in regards to mental health and what that means for such a tough and sometimes non-rewarding field, there were some wise comments there about who is the competition. And in this field in particular, there's not a lot of business brokers. It's amazing that our conference had 1,000 brokers show up in Orlando this year. But if you compare that to real estate, there's 1,000 brokers in most major real estate markets. Business brokerage in general is not that saturated of an industry. So the advice was, you are your own competition. Take care of yourself, eat well, take care of yourself first, and then you could serve others. Again, these are top performers. These are individuals that are crushing it at their game. One of them works 20 hours a week and takes lots of vacation. And she is by far exceeding the goals of most intermediaries. I think she's figured it out. I think this is wise counsel. Another one eats ice cream every day. So, staying strong mentally was a big part of it. They talked a lot about work-life balance, and I touched on this a little bit. One of the panelists just admitted, I don't have a work-life balance. It's something that I'm working on. This is a weakness of mine that I struggle with. And I think you see a lot of intermediaries that have that mentality. The moderator said, I celebrate a win by going out and finding another business to sell. And that was telling of his positioning, his hustle mentality, right? So that's a work-life balance. This individual chose, but he also shared he makes time for family and religion, but he made it clear that work is very, very important. And again, top performer. Balance. It's about health, family, company, everything else is extra. This one top performer talked about how this is just a chapter in her life. When she looks back, she wants to think about her extremely successful practice as one chapter in something bigger. And I think that's an incredible perspective. That was really powerful. There was some interesting talk about recession planning. Here it is, 2025. One of the brokers asked, what happens when all this crumbles, if this all crumbles? And one of the panelists went back to this notion of cash reserve, having funds put away for the rainy day and preparing for the cycles of business. And again, this applies to all industries, not just business brokerage. And he also pointed out that there's been talk of a crash for a long time. I'm sure it's coming, but It's been a long time and it hasn't happened yet. Another panelist talked about living below your means, paying yourself first, building a budget so that you are compensated and you can modulate your expenses instead of cutting out your own payroll to the extent that you can. Pay Yourself First is a popular book, so this top performer took that to heart. And a third panelist said, "In the economy shifts, cut fast indeed, don't wait." So when you see it coming, you have to make adjustments quickly. You can also do twice the number of deals to make the same money, is what he was saying. So work harder if you have to. There's always opportunity, was the mindset that all of these panelists had. And you may have to be adaptable to do that. And then there was some really, really good talk about delegation, team management. And this definitely applies to any field. The discussion was about, what do you do? One of them is famous for saying, "I never do anything that I could pay somebody $25 an hour to do." And so that's a common theme that you hear is, what is my highest and best use? If I'm going to make $600,000 this year, my time is worth $300 an hour. That's the mentality of, how much do you want to make? What is that per hour? Is the task that I'm doing now, could I pay somebody less to do it? The best and highest use of my time was a common concept that all of the panelists came back to. They talked about not making their businesses about themselves. They talked about outsourcing themselves from the business. They talked about delegating and letting their teams make mistakes so that they could learn from those mistakes and be a better team. And their role in guiding their team to grow and mature as team members of something larger to better serve the clients. There was some interesting discussion about technology as well. And I know for a fact some of these panelists are using the latest technology. And despite how technologically savvy these panelists were, some of them more so than others, some of them self-admittedly don't use technology. They all said this is a people business. You can use technology to a certain point, but in this industry, we are selling people's most valuable asset. And essentially that's what they hire us for, is to slow down and be a person and manage the emotions of this deal and to help them through this monumental and very important task. So I thought that was interesting, not to get lost in the technology, but to use it to cut through the noise and get to what's important so that we can add value as people. There were some questions about pivotal decisions in the career, and a lot of them talked about when they outsourced, how things got better. They talked about how important the IBBA was in their career. Found that pretty interesting. And then there was some talk about, interestingly, we're business brokers talking about people's exit plans. There was questions about the business broker's exit plan. And that, of course, came back to, how dependent is this business on me? The same questions that we ask our clients. So those were some of the big takeaways from this year's top performers panel for the IBBA and here in Orlando, Florida. This is probably my 9th conference, I think. I find these fascinating. I always learn from the best in breed, and it's an honor to be a part of this, candidly. If you are not involved in your industry's trade organization, you're not contributing, you're not connecting with top performers, you're missing out. This is where the gold is. They don't put this stuff in books. This is real life experiences that saves years of making those mistakes yourself. I encourage you to seek out and get involved. If you're a business broker and you're not at the IBBA, you're missing out. So that's all. Thank you for watching. I'm going to resume my regular content soon thereafter, but for now, signing off. This is Neal Isaacs, Raleigh Business Broker. Thanks for watching.